So yeah, obviously there's, if you don't know what Chris Chan is or the lore behind Chris Chan, it's a very strange tale of the internet, and one that I don't feel qualified to talk about.
I don't think any of us are qualified to talk about.
How would you explain what you do to somebody who doesn't understand anything about Chris Chan or the internet, essentially?
Okay, well, I talk in depth about Chris Chan. And if you don't know, Chris Chan is a certain person who has received a lot of attention over the years from various online forums and online groups for his and then later her unusual actions. And
that is an understatement.
Unusual actions. Yeah.
That's a very brief introduction, a very simplified introduction there.
Right.
Yeah, also has been bullied a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess you could say he's kind of like the forerunner of several online groups,
right.
Several online, I guess, I don't know what.
It's so difficult to describe like what he's all about, right?
You kind of have to go chronologically year by year to like really get the full story. Honestly.
Yeah. So this is go on.
Yeah, because I had not heard of Chris Chan until like I think a few months ago, where Connor introduced me to one of your videos, and I was because he couldn't believe that I hadn't heard of Chris Chan as someone who had been on the internet. He was just like, "What? How have you never heard of Chris Chan?"
Gart's been doing YouTube since which year now?
2007.
So basically the start of YouTube.
Yeah.
I found it. You know, how dare you be on this? How dare you be on this website and not know anything about Chris Chan?
See, because like I knew of things associated with Chris. You know, which we'll obviously get into later in the video. But like, when I heard the name Chris Chan, like obviously, you know, knowing because I'm Japanese, right? So when I immediately think something Chan, I think oh, it's just like a character or like something like that. And then when I realized that Chris Chan was an actual person, I was like, oh, okay, now this completely changes things.
So the reason why this episode came about and why Gino is here today is that I've been watching Gino's series. Now Gino does. A kind of a mountain task of documenting everything. And I think what episode are we on? 59 right now? Is
59,
that correct?
yeah.
So you have made 59 roughly around 30 to 50 minute videos.
How many hours of content have you made? Do you even know?
Of course, many people have calculated already. It's over 40 hours.
You've made
40 hours.
So this is a 40-hour documentary. You know, Michael Jordan is eating his heart out right now.
Yeah, right.
You know, Last Dance, eat your heart out. You know, 40 hours of content, and it is just this very fascinating look into a side of the internet, essentially.
It's like a really interesting, just like case study, isn't it? On just like a person on the internet.
And I think it's just so. There's nothing like it on the internet, and to have just such material, like the sheer scale of it is really daunting. And trying to convince someone to start watching, because the way I try to get people into Chris Chan and this whole thing is not because I don't particularly care about what happens, but it is almost like a TV show at this point, which we can also get about later, whether that's ethical or not, and you know whatnot, but. You know, I get my friends into the documentary. I'm like, please watch this. It's insane.
Like when you like introduced us to Gino's documentary at your place that one time, and I saw that there was like 45 episodes at the time. I think I was like, oh, is this what it feels like to like try and get someone into One Piece?
No, I was about to say the exact same thing. This is like I saw the episode. It was really interesting, and I looked at the rest of the episodes and just the sheer length. And I'm just like, oh no.
It's like I know, like because like. Just from watching episode 1, I was like, oh, this is so interesting. I want to watch more. But just like the sheer amount just made me kind of fall back a little bit. It's like, oh my God.
I think I started watching your series around episode 9 or 10. And that's when I started watching basically whenever you uploaded them. And it's been one of those things where the longer it gets, the harder it is to convince people to start. Because it gets so daunting. I think what happened the evening I showed these guys the series is that we'd been drinking a bit. And we were like, what should we watch? And I was like, I know the exact thing to watch at like midnight. Let me put it on.
Yeah, we finished watching all the Super Monkey Ball speed runs, and we were what else can top that? And Connor was like, watch this.
So we started watching it. I don't even know how to begin talking about this topic because it is so difficult to explain if the viewers don't know anything, and I imagine the viewers don't know much.
Right.
How would you describe Chris to someone who has no idea who Chris is?
Okay, Chris Chan is an autistic individual who through the process of bad parenting and their own afflictions caused themselves to both become a subject of bullying online,
Right.
and also in turn, they did not learn to avoid the trolls on the internet, and by addressing them all the time, only brought them into a bigger mess.
It
over
is just
time.
a case study of what not to do on the internet.
Right.
Yeah.
In
It just-
almost every single aspect.
It seems like, from me, from an outsider, because I think out of the three of us, I know the least about this topic. And it just seems, from what I can garner, it's kind of like the perfect storm of someone who is very susceptible to what people say about them on the internet and being trolled, and just kind of the worst trolls possible, egging them on.
Yeah.
And, and you just see the result from that.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, it says a lot when you can make 40 hours of content and you're not even up to date yet, are you, with the full story?
Not even close.
Yeah, I think there was obviously, people might know a lot about the recent news that happened.
Yes.
As Chris Chan or Christine, how do I even say this? This is
I'm like afraid to like say it out
Yeah.
loud. You know?
had, a lot of people like their mother. Unfortunately, Chris, I'm trying my best to say this without getting demonetized.
A lot of people like their mother, but I think Chris
did-
really
took it to-
likes her mother.
Took it to another level.
Yeah.
We joke, but the reason why it was covered in like a lot of mainstream outlets because it was so
It's trending on
despicable.
Twitter as
It's
well.
like
Yeah.
Christine had sexual intercourse with their mother, who I believe has dementia. Is that correct?
Possibly.
Possibly. Okay, I don't know, but when you see
But
clips,
it's very old, right?
very clips, it's very
At least
concerning.
80, or I think around 80 now.
Yeah.
So.
And it's obviously incest is illegal, and the fact that it is just insane.
Yeah.
It is, and quite frankly, it feels like the worst timeline to be on. It felt like we can get into it later about what happened after, but how do you when you start to introduce the topic of Christine, how do you talk about it to people who have like no idea, who want to know about it, in a sense that, okay, you've given the basics of who Chris was back then and how it all started, but how do you describe the documentary that you make?
It's a deep dive into a certain individual that I guess for the most part Chris was mostly known for the videos on YouTube for a very long time, but then I started exploring their wiki, which is their own dedicated wiki based on like everything they do.
Yeah.
And I found so much amazing information and interactions and content which gets ignored a lot on YouTube. So I decided to compile as much as I could, as much interesting stuff as I could, into video form to make it more digestible on YouTube. And
so you just read all this stuff and you're like, this is so interesting, I want to repackage it in a way that is more accessible.
right, yeah.
Wow.